And then May 4th, we were able to open up some more businesses. You know, obviously retail is allowed, you know, to open up their doors. We still have restrictions on hotels, motels, and short-term rentals not to be able to open until June 1st. Obviously, they know also that they have the ability to have folks that are working locally, as we know, and many of you have been on multiple calls throughout the last, you know, week, kind of hearing Commissioner Mudge talk about the fact that I believe we have 8 projects going on, from the, you know, paving project down Harrison to the school being built, to the hospital being built, to some of the other pieces. And so there are some folks, contractors that, you know, have been looking for spaces. So hopefully they've been able to reach out and contact those folks. On the call today, we do have Dr. Zerlinger as well. I would ask that if we wanted to start off the meeting and kind of ask questions to her specifically, so she doesn't have to hang out for all of the questions, but if you have questions around the data that we've been presenting in the sense of infection rate and why we're kind of continuing to do our, you know, one step at a time in a very, very controlled, phased in approach with businesses. That's kind of, you know, her piece of the puzzle, and she and I, as you can imagine, are in communication with that. And at this point in time, we still feel confident that we are doing this well, opening slowly, staying within the parameters of both the governor's public health orders as well as the, you know, our local public health orders. And so with that being said, I believe we're going to put questions into the chat, and Beth, who is going to help host this meeting, if you want to just kind of explain how we'll go ahead and do that, that would be great. Okay, I don't hear Beth, so I think if you folks have questions specifically, and of course, yes, audio issues. I feel like more and more folks are, you know, we're swamping this internet. So I think it's important, if you have questions for Dr. Lisa, if you can type them into the chat, and I will do my best to keep up with them. And Lisa, if you want to say anything prior to people asking questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
No, I'm good. I'm ready to answer questions.
Okay. So if you do have a question about kind of the decisions that are being made in Lisa and where we're at with data and testing, she is available for that. And so if you do have a question, please type it in the chat, and I will make sure that I read that out loud. Thank you. As I know that I'm a slow typer, I will give some folks a few extra seconds just in case.
This is Beth. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, sorry. So I think you've recapped, but basically, if you've got questions, either raise your hand and we will unmute you, or just put them right there in the chat box and we will read them out for the group and for Colleen and Lisa to respond to. Thanks.
So maybe I'll just start with a little summary. I know that a lot of us have been on the same calls together all week, and so I won't bore people with slides. But what I'd like to do is just initially talk about the stay-at-home order, what happened during that period of time, and then perhaps you know, what happened at the Safer at Home, and you know, certainly looking at ways that we can open up our community safely, I think, is all of our goals. And so the main point behind all of these, you know, regulations are to make sure that we don't have an overwhelming amount of people who are infected that overwhelm our local medical abilities here. And so, you know, I've bragged for the past couple of days what a great job Lake County and Leadville has done, and certainly by staying at home, by socially distancing, you know, wearing your mask, washing your hands, getting your test done, we have clearly flattened our curve, and we have not been overwhelmed. Our medical system is ready to take care of patients, and we are certainly able to keep up with the volumes. So we've been doing a great job, and our goal over the next, you know, several weeks, months, year, is to get to the point where we can continue that and not overwhelm our healthcare system. So I do want to congratulate all of us in Lake County and Leadville for having been done just a great job. We are offering testing. We are hoping that people will continue to come in and be tested. The only way that we're going to be able to gather this data and be able to make sure that we are opening up our community in a safe fashion is for people to come in, and so that we know where the infections are, we know how to contain them, and then we know how not to spread them. So we are encouraging people to come see their primary care providers for testing, and I can always talk about that more if people have questions too.
Thanks, this is Beth again. I just wanted to state that for any who have called in and aren't on the Zoom platform, you have the ability to unmute yourselves by pressing *6, and that will allow you to speak over your phone. All right, thanks. Looks like we have our first question. What is the short-term rentals policy, and what actions do hosts, if any, take for the months of June through August?
So currently, as you know, that we are not allowing, any kind of short-term rentals, hotels, motels to be open until June 1st. We are working on what that might look like, and that might mean reduced capacity. We're looking at other counties for some of the recommendations that are coming out are leaving rooms vacant for 3 days post. And so I know short-term rentals, that may be difficult because it's only one room versus a hotel that can kind of space and move folks around to the different rooms. Like I said, we are looking at best practice currently, and hopefully we will have guidelines available so that when the time comes, everyone has the ability to submit their social distancing protocol based on the guidelines that we provide. Like I said, we are working diligently behind the scenes to try to see what's happening best practice in other communities.
And are able to keep all but 2 of the COVID patients that we've seen so far. Also mentioned that we have to send any COVID patients to the east or west at a bigger hospital. Yes, there were 2 patients who needed to be transferred to Denver. Also have said that the reason for continued restrictions is to avoid overwhelming the hospital. How is that possible when we are shipping people out? So at some point, we look at the healthcare system in general terms, for the state of Colorado. And so when I say that we have not been overwhelmed, Denver has not been overwhelmed either. Either has Vail or the Salida Hospital, Heart of the Rockies. And so we are working in collaboration with all of our partners that we take patients that are appropriate to stay here at St. Vincent's Hospital. And then those the patients that need to be a higher level of care go elsewhere. But we do keep patients here. St. Vincent certainly is open for business and accepting those patients.
Lisa, can you speak to the critical patients and what our concern around that is? Because I think that's helpful as well for people to understand that turnaround time, the equipment we have, and that kind of piece.
Sure. So as we all know, St. Vincent's is a smaller hospital. We have the capability to ventilate patients if they come in respiratory failure, but we don't really have the ability to keep them here. And so what we've always done is stabilize patients and ship them out. So the patients that are critically ill, those are the ones that need to go to Denver. And as long as the big city hospitals have room and are able to take our patients because they are also not overwhelmed, then we're good.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to follow back. I haven't heard Beth jump in yet for the next questions. It looks like when will accommodations be able to apply to be open? I think that's a great question. I think we're looking, like I said, at the guidelines, and as soon as we feel confident that we have guidelines that we're comfortable with in Lake County, we will ask folks to apply. It will be that social distancing protocol that is available. We will put a link in the chat here in just a little bit for folks who haven't seen it yet. And, you know, the plan really is June 1st at this point in time. And like I said, it really is looking at possible, you know, minimal, you know, not necessarily like open all the doors. You know, once again, we're thinking about progression, and we'll get that information out to you. And so I appreciate your patience with that. And so it looks like the next question is about entertainment and music. And basically, can you please restate the general guidelines for restaurants as of June 1st so that they can plan kind of what might mesh with those guidelines? It should be recognized that the state has not come up with restaurant guidelines at this point in time. We are kind of, once again, looking what other counties are thinking because we want to be prepared. We do know that the governor is making a decision on May 25th on restaurants and bars. And so what has traditionally happened is he makes a decision and then guidelines don't come out for days later. And we're hoping to avoid that by kind of gauging what we think might be some of those guidelines so that we can push that out to our restaurants so that on May 25th, we kind of have a good plan in place and everyone kind of knows, you know, whether or not it's a go or not go, if you will. So once again, we appreciate your patience, but recognize that we are not getting any guidelines from the state. This is something we're trying to do, you know, in-house with other counties because we don't want to be caught on May 25th when, you know, if the governor says, oh, by tonight, and we're not ready. So please know that we are aware of that date and we will work to get guidelines out if the state doesn't provide them prior to that time. So as you know, we do have a very strong retail food list that we have the ability to send that out pretty quickly to everyone. So thank you.
How confident are you feeling in test results right now? The more testing we do, the more accurate we actually have determined that this test is. There are two tests. One is an examination of nasal secretions that look for the presence of the virus itself. We do that test when people are sick, obviously, as the yield of that test is much higher during those 10 days that people are experiencing symptoms. And so that test is very accurate because it looks for the genetic material of the virus itself. The other tests that we're doing are antibody tests, and those tests are done with a blood sample. Those tests probably have a sensitivity and specificity greater than 95%. You know, there are different kinds of tests that are out there, but the ones that Lake County is currently using, either through Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp in Denver, are great sensitivity and specificity. So I have a lot of confidence in the results of those tests.
Great. It looks like the next one is just reinstating that, you know, the sooner we can provide guidelines, the better, so everyone's prepared, and we absolutely agree with that. So thank you. And then it does look like Beth did put in the chat the business protocol overview. Phone, and I will do my best to scroll back up and read that, but I think it's actually not going to be readable, if you will. So if you want to get that link, please reach out to environmentalhealth@co.lake.co.us. Obviously, you can pull them from our COVID-19 page. We do have you know, those links on a document that goes out weekly. The CDC as well as the CDC. Oh my goodness, I wish the CDC was talking to me directly. The EDC and you know, the Tourism Board, the Chamber of Commerce, they all have those links as well. If that's an opportunity for you to get them there. Like I said, there's a lot of like capital, lowercase, 1, 8. Like there's just too many things to read over the for those folks on the phone. I apologize about that.
All right, the next question, what is the reasoning behind the 3-day wait between stays at short-term rentals? The reasoning behind that is the life cycle of the virus. And so droplets, when they leave the body and are deposited on various surfaces, the life cycle of the virus can last up to 3 days on most surfaces. And so I think that was the reasoning behind that, to try and give the virus time to actually naturally dry up and go away. So there's less chance for infectivity. The science behind that, honestly, is not great, and that's something that continues to develop as we learn more about the life cycle of the virus. But that's where that initially came from.
So Beth did provide a shorter link. I will do my best to read it to you. So if you need that, please take out a pen and paper and be prepared. So basically, it's the typical beginning of HTTPS.
Colleen, hang tight. That was the wrong one. I'm going to correct that. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Beth. You're going to test me on my English skills of like, is that a colon? Yes, that's a colon. And is that a / kind of thing? I kind of forget those if you don't verbally say them out loud. So we'll keep rolling with some questions. While we're waiting for that, I know there's been some questions around enforcement. We've been working with our law enforcement and trying to figure things out, what we can or can't do. I think it's important as businesses that we recognize the need for folks to wear face coverings coming into your establishments. Part of the social distancing protocol is to post that in your window to say masks, wearing a face covering is needed. And I think we need to get into that habit of currently what's posted on our door at Public Health is kind of playing on the old adage of no shirt, no shoe, no service. So basically now we're doing, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. So people can really understand that this is the new normal that we are all moving into, is that, at this point, obviously the requirement piece is really tough, but the more that we can be unified on this message, including your staffing, including, the public accessing our spaces, we're trying to protect each other, by those face coverings. And so I think, if we can have that unified message and you feel comfortable with that and have the ability, for you to be able to be open, right, we're requiring this protocol. And if people aren't going to follow it, then we have the ability to enforce it. You do have the ability as a business to say that we are not, we're not serving, like, please, remove yourself. And I would think if there's a retail store in town that you'd be like, oh, and so selling face coverings down the block or a bandana or whatever that looks like, maybe that can be, kind of helpful as well. But I think we have to get comfortable to that point of, requiring people to have face coverings coming to your spaces, especially those spaces, like I think about restaurants, where they're going to be in there for, a longer amount of time than just in a retail store, stepping in and out kind of a thing. Plus, they're going to obviously required to take off their masks in order to, consume food. But I think it's important for folks to recognize that this environment, this new normal, and even, when you're out visiting friends, that you're wearing your face mask 6 feet apart and, hanging out on the deck, if you will. So I just wanted to put that out there while we're waiting for some other questions. And does it look like we've gotten some at this point, or is it just more comments? Oh, there is a question about what are the consequences of a business not following guidelines, because every business is required to have a license, that their license will be revoked, and there will be a cease and desist order until they're able to comply with current public health orders. So I'm looking at a question about the Opera House, in order to enter the chamber, to work with our board and less than 10 volunteers to turn on water and clean. I think it is important that you do submit for any of the folks that are going to be wandering around in there, even though it's less than 10, which is great, but just to know that you have the ability to wash hands, have hand sanitizer on site, and that kind of thing. So we would appreciate that. Thank you. And so obviously it looks like you will have, folks milling about. So all those social distancing protocols will, come into play, face coverings 6 feet apart, when possible, hand washing and all that stuff. So that's for the Opera House. And it looks like, see if there is a question. Sorry, I'm trying to go through this. As you guys are looking at the same thing I am at the same time. It looks like, Okay, that's good to know. So Melissa is sharing that Airbnb is doing a great job with COVID-19 and cleaning procedures. Perhaps we could reference this as we move forward. They have an extended cleaning procedure that is rather detailed. They're recommending a 24-hour hold after reservations. Yeah, that would be great, Melissa, if you're able to send that to us at environmentalhealth@co.lake.co.us. That would be super helpful. So thank you. We appreciate that. Looks like we have Businesses Be Creative has the opportunity for different use. They would need to apply. So if they are physically opening their doors to people, they would need to apply for a social distancing protocol in that respect. And so that is important. So it's not just things are happening behind closed doors. If you're actually physically bringing people into that space, even if it's a group of 5, we need to know that you have those social distancing protocols in place. So it looks like, will there be separate guidelines for private groups? They're thinking about birthday parties, anniversary parties. That is a great question. So it should be noted that even if people have the ability to stay, we are still not comfortable with groups greater than 10. So when you think about a birthday party or an anniversary party or a wedding, at this point in time, the limitation would still be 10 people. So I think that's important to note that even privately, it still is the same. A gathering is a gathering, whether it's public or private. So the next question is whether or not we anticipate a change from gathering from max 10 to move to a max of 50. A lot of you have seen the framework that we are working on. It takes us about 4 to 8 weeks to feel comfortable moving from one phase to the next. And currently, we just started, if you want to put a date to it, we just started phase 1 on May 1st. So even if we're doing everything, really well, we may or may not. And it's going to be dependent on the governor. At this point in time, we are not looking to go out against the governor, and at the same time recognize that if he comes out tomorrow and says that, we can gather in the millions, like I am not comfortable as the public health director. And so I would put in stricter limitations around that. And obviously we would love to get to that 50, but I don't have a date in mind at this point. And so just to follow up to that question about group sizes, I think for the future, yes, as soon as we kind of see what's happening and where those group sizes start to increase, we will make sure that we get that out to those venues that, do hold those events. And I think, like I said, I think the new normal is truly that social distancing piece, what, is needed and or critical, and kind of going from there. So it looks like someone, Pixel 3 is sharing out some great information about their experience, so I appreciate that. So it looks like we have the correct link for the short link, and once again, I will do my best to read this. And so once again, I apologize if you're not able to get it. There are plenty of places that you can access this link, but currently it is https:// that we dictate what your plan is. Just you have to have some of these pieces in place, and how you do it is kind of what we're looking at. So thank you. So this looks like a bigger question. This would be a question to anyone working with Leadville Sanitation or Perkville, which is the water for folks. Are there any discussions to try to temporarily reduce fees so that landlords can charge less and or owners can use those funds for other things? I haven't heard that yet. We can, pass that on to, Leeds County. We have, yeah, no, I'm thinking that we can pass that on. I know that Sarah Mudge, our county commissioner, is on this call, so that might be something that I can follow up with her later if we think that's, or, just say, hey, this was a recommendation, and we'll see what happens from there. And Beth had shared that the next Parkville board meeting is this Thursday, tomorrow at 5:15. So that might be another place where those concerns can be heard directly. So these are questions that are coming in over the chat. If there's you know, opportunity for anyone on the phone who wants to speak, once again, in order to unmute yourself, you need to *6. So I did share that Sarah Mudge, our commissioner, is on the phone currently. I know that she's been able to kind of talk to some of the business pieces and the recovery pieces that we're looking at. So Sarah, if you're able to, do you feel that you could kind of talk to some of the data points that we have seen in highlighting opportunities for business owners that are out there?
Hi, Colleen. Yes, hi, everyone. I just want to mention the EDC and the tourism panel in partnership with the work that's been, the communications that's been going on with the city and Main Street, put out a survey to folks. And while I know we didn't capture everyone, there were 54 respondents, and there were 2 data points that I've been mentioning in some of the recent meetings that we've been having that I found very interesting, and just pointed out that, you know, the information needs to be continue to be pushed out there, and opportunities are out there for folks to you know, help us weather the storm together and help you financially. So according to that survey, about 50% of our local businesses haven't sought any sort of funding from federal, state, or the local level. So if you need assistance, please reach out. Any venue can, you know, public health, human services, EDC, of course, the city, county. We can connect you with folks who can help, and there will be a recovery team being developed more robustly to address business and the economic recovery through this season and 2020. The other point that I found interesting on that survey was, you know, it seemed apparently 25% of our local business owners were sole proprietors and the only employee of their business. And in that case, under the CARES Act, through COVID-19, you are eligible for unemployment. And so that's of course not typical, and is again something that you know, I'd love to just put out there for you all to explore that possibility and opportunity to support you through this time.
Thank you, Shar. And it looks like Donna did share on the chat that the survey results are on the EDC website, as is a new application for EDC relief grants. Deadline is May 17th, and their website is www.lakecountyedc.com. We do have another question about seating capacity after June 1st, inside and outside seating for restaurants and bars. And I think that is kind of what we're working on, the guidelines. There's some different takes, whether or not it's just a reduction like 30% of seating, or, you know, are we going on square footage, or are we going on like the fire code seating and going from there? So like I said, we are working on those guidelines behind the scenes, and hopefully we'll have something here sooner rather than later. So thank you. Are there any other questions, whether on the phone or in the chat?
Colleen, this is Janine Yee. Can you hear me?
Yes. So Janine McGee is our Director of Human Services for Lake County. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on what Sarah was saying and let folks know of a few resources. One is individual financial assistance that's available to anyone in the community, and it can pay for rent or utilities for a personal residence. And I'm really blessed with the Lake County to do fundraising and provide funds for this disaster system. And County Build Generation and Full Circle have also do the fund. So if one is feeling like it would benefit them, but information to share with employees, or as a business owner, if it would help you out to have assistance in paying rent or utilities in your house, so that frees up money or helps to get through the business component of it, feel free to, you can call our Human Services front office, which is 48608, and feel free to just share your name and phone number, and we will assign a case manager who will walk you through the application, and we can proceed to get some assistance out to folks. The other opportunity is, as Sarah mentioned, there are opportunities for participation in the recovery team, which is newly formed. We're holding our first meeting tomorrow at 3:30. We'll be trying to circulate that invitation to everyone in the business community. If you have an interest in that, I will also share my email in the chat, but it is jn.mcgee@state.co.us, and that is a robust group of folks who are going to come together to figure out what we're doing going forward. How are we going to figure out the new norm and what that means for our business community, as well as connect with all possible resources that are out there and available for rural communities affected by COVID-19. There are a number of opportunities to focus on business resiliency, event recreation planning going forward, employment, budgeting, everyone as involved as possible, that it's an inclusive process in thinking about recovery, and that we are meeting the needs of every employers and helping assess what those needs look like. If somebody's not even sure where to start, we can go from there. If somebody has a sense of what they need, or if they feel like they're in a good place, that's great. We want to identify why and what resources for them that might work for other folks. So if you have an interest, feel free to translate the invitation. If you don't get it for some reason and you have an interest, keep reaching out, and we will make sure that we get as inclusive a group as possible. Folks could join and participate occasionally, or we could also open it up to a long-term commitment as well. We don't want anyone to feel like they can't be part of that process. Recovery in a disaster has to be inclusive, has to meet everyone's needs, and there are reasons available to us specifically right now we want to make sure we're capturing. Any questions specifically on that? You have some other ones in the chat now too.
Okay, I don't see any questions specifically to what Janine was speaking to, but I do think it's recognizing that there are a lot of resources out there, and hopefully folks you know, reach out and get what the help that they need, and also trying to anticipate what that might look like. Because I think we have to remember, this is not just us getting through the summer. This is us getting through the next year, if you will. This is not something that's just going to end in the sense of kind of what this new normal is. And so really anticipating that this is not just about making it through the summer, really coming up. And I think to Janine's point of, you know, what does our community look like, you know, 6 months out from now, 9 months out from now, you know, a year from now, and you know, how we can become stronger and more resilient. And I feel like there's so many agencies, you know, participating and pitching in and making sure that there's support out there. So please reach out and get that support as needed. So thank you. Let's see. I know that there were some questions that came in. I'm going to scroll back up if you guys want to give me a second so I can get caught up. And it looks like there is a reminder, if you would like to be added to the distribution list for COVID-19 updates from Public Health and Emergency Management, please email lakecountypio@gmail.com with that request. Once again, that's lakecountypio@gmail.com. It looks like, is it possible to open up reduced seating capacity, like 5 to 10 people at a time, so that restaurants and bars can practice all the new protocols before June 1st without customers? Before June 1st, without customers in the building, it's hard to anticipate how all this will need to be done or problems that could arise with real people in place. This way we can go into June with confidence and well-trained employees. Well, I appreciate that. At this point in time, like I said, we are under the governor's orders, and at this point in time, you're not to open until June 1st. I think it's an opportunity to work with your staff that you do bring in to kind of have those conversations and see where people are at. I think it's important, you know, when you're filling out those social distancing protocol pieces, to think about, you know, if I can't physically move this table, do I put a sign on that? And then we have the ability to kind of, you know, ebb and flow with some signage to kind of maintain that space. And I understand that this is going to be a learning process for all of us. It's going to be, you know, a lot of trial and error to make sure that we're doing that well. And so it looks like, similar to other cities, like a duet on a roof for takeout. And it seems appropriate that I bring this up with the recovery team. I think that is, but you also have to talk about, you know, where that's located, because the intent isn't to have people gather. And I think there's some hesitation around that. And I know, Kira, that you had shared that you have had other communities, if you're able to share what they're doing or how they're doing that, like discouraging people from standing down in the street and staying in place, because as the weather gets nicer, we are finding that more people aren't necessarily adhering to takeout, literally taking in and go, because per the regulations, you cannot consume on site. And so, you know, even if that's like on the sidewalk when we start to get a gathering. So obviously we're open to hear more about that, but obviously can't make a decision right now. And it looks like, does the county anticipate implementation of contact tracing protocols? If so, what can lodging community do to assist with? I'm guessing this is in relation to, obviously we're doing all contact tracing right now through public health with anyone that has a positive, but to that point with the lodging community, yes, there will be a guideline that you need to keep your ledger for at least 30 days, if not longer. That includes short-term rentals, so that if we come back and we trace something to that, it'll be very easy for all of us to be like, nope, we know who stayed where, who is in that, and then having those, you know, quick connections so that we can pinpoint those and isolate those cases as quickly as possible, you know, obviously that are traveling outside of our community. So we will be working on that guideline, and then we'll let the lodging community know what that will be about. So what is our message to visitors as of June 1st? Should we be encouraging people to come then? I think, you know, I think a piece of this, and I've been kind of mulling this over, as I think all of you guys are, is we know that people are here, right? They're coming. So, you know, we haven't said that we're closed for tourists. We just encourage people to follow the governor's orders, not to, you know, recreate 10 miles past, you know, their house, if you will. And so I think that is a good question. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Anybody want to say what they think, what that message might look like? Because that would be helpful for me in that respect. And it's, you know, I think the more that we can be unified on what that message is, on how, you know, we expect people to come into our community and respect all of us, right, in that respect. And wow, it's huge respect like 4 times in a sentence. But, you know, with the intention of, you know, we want to normalize that wearing a face covering is where it's at, you know, here in Lake County. So I don't know if maybe there's opportunity for that of like, hey, come to our business, and we have people having, you know, their face coverings on. And you know, come to Lake County, you know, safely. So that is not my expertise. I rely on all of you amazing folks where you know what that looks like. So I think that's, you know, I think that could be part of it, right? And so if anybody does want to say or share anything right now, please feel free to share what you think that message might look like, because that could help me kind of what we're trying to do, you know, in our public health orders, you know, moving forward, because right now our public health orders go out until May 31st.
Hi, this is Kirsten Ayers with the train. Am I in?
You are in, please.
Well,
Go ahead.
awesome. So, you know, working through this with you guys has been actually workable, which has been really nice. We've got a lot of marketing money out from all of our businesses, and we're all trying to figure out if we're keeping employees or such. I think that, like you said, if we all can come up with our own business plan and protocol, and I understand that basically the 5 pages that you have requested us to fill out is in many ways our business plan and protocol. I'm the Pixel 3 who thinks that, you know, it's doable, and I've been very impressed with that. You know, we do need that guidance. We need to know if the county commissioners are saying, hey, we're open, or we're softly open, or what that looks like. But yeah, if I'm going to push marketing, I need to know, you know, what the capacity is even after June 1st and what our options are. I think that a lot of our town is trying to figure out how to direct funds, how to redirect funds, and see what we can do to either save money or figure out what life looks like, because I know I've got a lot of people on edge trying to figure out if they're going to be able to open or if they're going to be able to make any money.
Yes, I appreciate that for sure. Thank you so much. And I think, you know, that is, you nailed it in the sense of that is all what we're trying to figure out. And I think, you know, some of the pieces that we pushed out to some of the folks that haven't, you know, issued like their letter of, you know, being able to open, you know, it really is a soft opening. So is that something we want to push out, you know, in the next week where, you know, we're not necessarily closed, but hey, this is soft opening, and pushing that out. So I will think about that. I ask everyone else to think about that as well. And so that it doesn't feel as, you know, that the gates are closed only because A, there's no gates, B, we know people are coming.
I totally agree, and I will say that this soft opening has made it this concept of a soft opening has made basically what's happening more palatable to me mentally. It's been made more palatable to my employees who they do want to show up to work, but they're also scared of the consequences of, you know, being around in the public. And having these limitations in place, knowing that we're accepting those limitations, and honestly, you know, I can draw up a 500-page proposal and it might fail. So from my perspective, this kind of concept of a soft opening has been really helpful, because we've never done this. I mean, I'm young, I'm only 32, and nobody who I've spoken to has ever done any of this kind of thing. And so having this soft opening and succeeding or failing and tweaking and either buying more supplies or taking out too much information, you know, that has been really helpful to us.
No, I appreciate that. I think, like I said, we are working on, you know, what we think can or can't work. And like I said, I think the more unified we are and the more comfortable we are with, you know, really asking folks to like, hey, wear a face covering. Like I said, we put up no shoes, no shirt, no, you know, no mask, no service in that respect. And so that might be, you know, an opportunity, even if it's something, you know, for some of the retail shops that maybe they have that available and we're directing people, and or like, you know, just because you did share about the train, that maybe that's something you have that you know, that you're giving people like, hey, you want to get on this, like go buy a face, you know, face covering from our shop, as we know can be as simple as a bandana. So I'm just putting it out there. Looks like we have a couple of more questions that I want to get to and be mindful of folks' time. Then it looks like through the visitor center, I'm receiving a lot of contacts asking when tourism-based activities will be open, like horseback riding, zip line, guide services, et cetera. I think that's a great question. We are working with some of those pieces right now with some of the businesses that have submitted their social distancing. Please recognize that at this point in time, it's still less than groups of 10. We're asking it to be, you know, family groups, not a mixed group of people coming together. Social distancing protocols have to be in place. So as soon as we feel that we have a better understanding of that, we'll make sure we get that out as well. But those services are able to submit their social distancing protocols, and we will work with them individually, and then it'll be up to them to kind of push that back out, what they're able to do. It looks like there is a comment about following protocols is important across the community. The personal responsibility taken outside business operation will also be important for maintaining the progress of moving forward through the stabilization into and through the first phase of reopening. Collectively as a community, we need to understand that our actions personally could impact the local business ability to successfully operate. And I think just to tag team on that, really, if folks don't understand that if we start to see high infection rates, that affects all of, folks on the phone and businesses in the sense of, if you have that ability to kind of spread that message out into your friend and family circle of, if folks are deciding to go, and have large gatherings, more than 10 people, then all of a sudden we have an outbreak because, all these folks attended a party and now went and gave, this to their family where they may not have symptoms, but there might be somebody in their family that might come down with symptoms that actually affects our business community, right? In the sense of, hey, we have to start slowing things down again. And so I think the more we can push out the message, the better. It looks like once we do open to the public after June 1st, as long as Polis lessens the restrictions, we will have to provide a restroom to the public, or can we as a business not offer public bathrooms? We all know bathrooms are an issue in normal times, and bathrooms are an excellent source of contamination. I hear what you're saying. I think we will be looking at some of those pieces, like we call those high touch surface, high touch areas. And we have seen where other communities have opened some of their just public restrooms, not necessarily obviously in a business, where it's basically like a sign goes up on the door saying, use at your own risk, right? In the sense of, if you actually start to have, folks in your business and, the capacity to clean it after every person obviously is not doable. And so I think there will be conversations around that, and we'll push that out as well. So thank you. It looks like another comment about county outdoor recreation facilities were open this past Monday. So as of Monday, we realized that so many folks are using our outdoor spaces and not necessarily using them well. And so we made a decision that we would open up our outdoor spaces. That does not include restrooms, playgrounds in that respect, but with signage so people can understand, hey, if you're here, no group gatherings greater than 10, and a couple other pieces. So just to name a few, that would be like community field and the dog park, the skate park, just to name a few. It looks like from the tourism panel standpoint, we are planning a visit safely message based on tourism research, among other factors. I welcome additional dialogue with anyone who's interested as to how actively we invite folks to come. So thank you. I do know that so many of these pieces, are happening in conjunction to what we're doing. And I think the more, once again, the business community folks are unified and feel comfortable with that message. And I appreciate that, that point about a soft opening and see where we go. Like I said, our message isn't like, we're fully open, come on in, because truly, if infection rates go up where we feel that we are, on that plane of where we have to start pulling back, like I'd rather do this like very incrementally is where I'm at, but I will let you guys figure out what some of those messaging is. And if it's something that if you want some input, obviously we're more than happy to do that. So there was a clarification about the bathroom. I'm referring to legality if we cannot offer a bathroom to the public as a bar or restaurant. I would have to look into that. I don't know what that might look like at this point in time. So Dr. Lisa needs to log off. Is there anything, any other questions for her? Okay, I don't see any. So thank you so much, Lisa. We totally appreciate your time for getting in here. And just so you know, we do update on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. at the BOCC work session that does come out weekly on Patty Burgers on the planner as far as the link to that, but that is the plan on Tuesdays to provide that data of where we're at weekly and kind of what our next steps are. So if anyone's able to join us, then that would be great. And that'll be a better use of Dr. Zollinger's time. So thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, looks like I have a couple. Okay, looks like another comment. A large business that has not been closed as it is exempt through this event is currently experiencing the concern listed regarding public restrooms and the concern regarding the ability to maintain environmental cleaning for the safety of their employees. They have added staff to address this. the best they can. But again, a good point to operate within your capacity to maintain protocols and safety. And then looks like another question, is there anything the city county is doing to support the mental health of our younger 20, 30 somethings, unemployed or overall population, not suicide assist, but positive engagement? So we do have an emotional survey that people can link to, and kind of it's an emotional check-in, and we are pushing out messaging directly from what we are seeing. So there's a lot of messaging that is going out, not only through us, but also through Vista, which is our large mental health provider here. The new campaign that came out, per a suggestion of our commissioner here, Kayla Marcella, was the 5+5. So if you have the ability to call 5 people in your circle, then ask them to call 5 people in their circle, and we just keep going from there. So that might be, a good way to do that piece, in the sense of folks checking in with folks, because we do need to be taking care of each other, but there are supports out there and resources for folks for that. So I appreciate that, bringing that up, because that is so important. It's such a big factor in everything that we're seeing, for myself included, as you can imagine. So thank you for that. It looks like, and I just want to point out that we are 3 minutes left in this meeting, so I'll do my best to continue answering questions, but please recognize that I do have to jump on another call after this. So the next question is, do we know the status of the races after June? I've heard they voted on the decision to cancel or not July onwards. So currently all events are canceled. So that includes our Leadville, race series. And what the decision is, people can come and propose things that are 250 or less, but recognize that we're not there yet. We're only at 10. And so the July piece is that we will come together in July and talk about it, but we recognize the fact, the time, the effort, and everything that goes into these planning pieces and the volunteers, that we would no way be able to support that. And that came out, there's a press release that did come out this morning specifically about that, stating that, we have canceled all of our summer events. And so there's a follow-up. For example, tourism last night, for example, Tim Hill was instructed not to offer guide services to tourists for the time being. This is my confusion. His service would be a couple people within the same family. Are you accepting application now for these type of activities that can operate? So we did accept that application, and obviously if we are looking to message as a soft opening, then we will reach out to those companies that we have asked only to serve locally and work with them directly. So I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we have 2 minutes to go. Is there anything else that anyone wants to share, comment, chat? Once again, if you are on the phone, to unmute yourself, please *6. Thank you. All right, hearing nothing and seeing nothing, I will give you all back a minute back in your day, and we can be done with this meeting. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate all of you, and I fully recognize, the challenges that are posed through our, public health orders as well as the governor's orders, but I feel confident that we can work through this together and do this well. So thank you so much. Well, it looks like we have one more question coming in under the gun. It says, to restate, while people can provide services, they are to Lake County citizens only, even, tougher on more people coming. We absolutely recognize that. Please know that we will have a conversation to reach out to some of those businesses, if we have other recommendations at this point in time. So please be patient. And it looks like there was something else I didn't quite catch. And Sarah Mudge did want to say, correct, the BOCC voted to cancel the currently permitted events through the season, as they were all 250 or larger and did not meet the state's orders. We will continue the conversation to explore other creative opportunities. Great. Okay, I think we are done, and I want to say thank you again. And obviously we'll see each other, and the more we connect, the better, to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I appreciate all of you and all of your time. Thank you.